Hey friends, it's Beck. Let's talk about accents. I just recently saw a post from someone from Georgia that said that she gets accused of taking on a Blaccent because of her Southern accent. And for those of you who don't know what a Blaccent is, it's usually when a person who is not a person of color takes on vocal patterns that are congruent with AAVE, African American Vernacular English. And there are a lot of like full on rules. This is a full on language, and pronunciations that come with that language. And usually that's a person who does not speak AAVE is taking on AAVE in order to like fit in or, I don't know, appropriate in some way. And it's funny because, I came up in Georgia again, as a person with a really whitewashed education before I hit college. And then I started taking linguistics classes. Before I took these linguistics classes, I was always like, well, English is supposed to be this. It was like a colonialist view of what English is supposed to be. And then I actually studied language and realized that language is like a living being. I mean, it's going to change all the time. And there's no such thing as illegitimacy when it comes to language. So that's really the legitimacy argument about language is a colonialist one. It's how you separated us from them, which I don't want there to be a them. I don't want there to be an us. I want it all to be us. But anyway, I didn't realize that my, grammarian tendencies were actually rooted in white supremacy. So I had to deconstruct all of that. So anyway, this creator was talking about how her Southern accent, I'm assuming pronouns here, but I'm assuming this is she, her, that her accent, her Southern accent was a Blaccent. And you can't really hear it now, but coming from Atlanta, I certainly have a lot of that kind of seep out of me sometimes, especially when I'm not really paying attention to what I'm saying. It just sort of happens. And what I realized is that the AAVE and the Southern accent here in Atlanta, because the population is so diverse in Atlanta, that AAVE accent and regular Southern accent have blended into this accent that I like to call ATLian. The people in Atlanta have this weird white Southern accent, but then it's taking on, their friends and neighbors and relatives that have more experience speaking AAVE. And then it sort of just kind of blends together into this kind of new, beautiful Creole of these two things. And so occasionally I'll pop out with something that sounds like I'm putting on a Blaccent, but it's actually just being from Atlanta that makes it happen. And I know probably a lot of you are rolling your eyes because I sound a bit like a newscaster now. And that's one of the things that I wanted to explain is that I am a person having been traumatized and also probably a bit spicy. I have an excess of mirror neurons. And I am one of those people that if I spend enough time in a space, I will definitely start speaking like the people around me. I'm also hyperlexic. So I tend to pick up on accents very quickly, tend to pick up on pronunciations very quickly. And my brain does this thing where it can like switch tracks and just sort of start talking in another way. It can just take on a completely different set of rules. And it just sort of happens naturally. I think it's got to do with my hyperlexia and probably being traumatized and having an excess of mirror neurons and, the hyperlexia all mixed together. It ends up happening to me. So if I spend enough time around any type of person with any type of accent, I'm inevitably going to start picking some of that stuff up. And frankly, it makes me sound like a fake. I mean, I can't help it. It makes me sound like somebody who is going to change myself to suit the people around me because I'm trying to fit in or whatever. And it makes me look like a total freaking fake, but it's actually something I can't help. It just happens. And the weirdest thing is when it happens in the wrong place. So, for example, when I was traveling in Ireland, I find that the more tired or angry or like really not mentally present that I am, the more Southern my voice sounds. And I was walking with some friends in Ireland and a car went by. We were on the side of the road and a car went by and it kicked up some rocks. And I went, y'all hold on a second, something flew up in my eye. Yeah, let me repeat that. Y'all hold on a second, something flew up in my eye. And my Irish friends lost it. I mean, they absolutely lost it. Because I wasn't thinking and my ATLian came out. And then when I got back to Atlanta, to my very conservative mother's horror, we were riding around in the car and a bunch of like these idiots just walked out in the middle of the road. And I said, what are you going to do? Walk in the middle of the fucking road. Just so you know, in Ireland, the F word is like way, way, way more popular than it is here in the American South. Everything had the F word in it. It was like not a big deal. But here in the American South, oh boy, if you drop that, that is like the mother of all curses. And my mother, she was shocked. She was like, I have never heard you speak like that. Like, what on earth? And I was like, sorry, Ireland. And it just happens. I mean, when I was living in Miami, I found myself saying stuff like dale because I went to the most diverse law school in the country and nearly everybody around me was a native Spanish speaker. I even picked up the no, yeah, no. When I went to school in Virginia, I had a good friend that was from up there and I started saying wicked all the time. Oh man, that's wicked cool. And it's not because I'm trying to imitate anybody. It's just the way my brain works. And I think it's because I've spent a lot of time in survival mode, in fight or flight. And when you're in survival mode and you're in fight or flight, one of the things you do to try to preserve yourself, and this is all subconscious, is that you sort of try to endear yourself to the people in power or the people around you to try to make yourself part of the in-group because it helps with survival. So remember, humans have been running from lions a lot longer than they've been paying bills or watching TikTok. So if we were separated from the group, we were a lot more likely to get picked off by those lions than we were if we were part of a big group. And so, yes, cultural appropriation is absolutely real and we need to be super, super sensitive about it. And like, just don't be an asshole. Like literally just care, just care and don't be an asshole. And please do not try to benefit from the culture that has been oppressed by people like you. Like, I am not going to go show up in Hawaii and start teaching hula classes. That is not my culture. As a matter of fact, white Americans are the ones that deposed their queen and outlawed their language. I'm not going to go do that. That's wrong. I'm not going to start a box braiding studio here because that's not for me. But what my brain will do is kind of, I don't know, inevitably try to fit in with you a little bit. So it's going to pick up your language a little. And we just got to be mindful of it and do the best we can. But those of us who are traumatized or have spent a lot of time in fight or flight, it's going to be a lot more common among people like us because we have all of those mirror neurons that are just like, please fit in with the group around you or you are in danger. The lion is right around the corner. I'm always looking for the damn lion. Kind of neat how that stuff works, right? Do you pick up accents when you travel? How does that relate to your experience with trauma? I'm interested to hear your thoughts.